Hey everyone, this is Andre from Marginal Support. Where support is anything but marginal. So last week, well actually this week, I just had the final episode of Marginal Support for I guess you could call this season, and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of great people on, um, gained a lot of great insights, and it was a blast actually to speak with people. But I'm going to take a small break from it simply because the time it takes to schedule people and find guests and whatnot is a little more than the time I have right now. So, what I'm going to be doing instead for a while is something I like to call support minutes. And so, the first support minutes we're actually going to talk about today, the full episode, wrapping marginal support and moving on to support minutes, is about underperformers. So, I think most people here probably encounter this. You go through an interview, you bring someone on the team and they seem like a great fit. They killed the the test, they killed the presentation, but then when you bring them on the team, you notice something a little strange. You see that when they're ramping, that they're falling behind someone else. They're not quite catching the material. They are maybe asking a lot of questions that other people haven't asked, or they're just not getting a solid grasp on the material that you need them to learn, you need them to ramp. So I think generally that's my first cue when someone might be an underperformer. And so, why are we even talking about underperformers? Because everyone talks about overperformers, everyone talks about your rock stars on your teams, but what do you do when you hire someone or you have someone on your team that's an underperformer? What steps do you have to take? Like, how do you proceed with this? So, I had this happen to me in the past, and so the first steps I took was first I sat down with the person during the unwrapping and seeing where they were stuck, seeing if I could help them, walking through some sample problems with them, seeing where they had their strengths, seeing where they had their weaknesses, and you just try to walk through with them. And if they're still lacking, okay, maybe they're having trouble ramping. Really, where you're going to see if this person truly is an underperformer is when they start to take tickets. Are they answering tickets? Are they actually hitting SLAs? Are they asking good follow up questions? Are they asking smart follow up questions? Are they actually reading the questions that the client sent to them? And are they internalizing that? And one of the ways you can clearly see this is not just by asking them, but look what's in the ticket. Look at the responses that they're giving. Do the responses look like they've actually thought through the problem the client is asking, and they're thinking more about the why did a client ask this instead of what is the client asking? Because me personally, I think the why is usually more important. So let's say you have this person and they're still struggling a couple weeks in, now a month in. The amount of tickets they're taking is well below what everyone else is doing in terms of the amount of tickets they're solving, but the amount of new tickets they're taking, maybe the average time these tickets are staying in their queue is much longer than everyone else's. So these are indicators that this person might not be a great fit for your team. So what can you do? What you could do first, if you have a buddy system, you can assign them a buddy. You can see if they can help work through tickets. One thing that I found was useful was we look through tickets. We both look at the ticket together. I say I have my own insight on how to answer this ticket. I want to hear what you're going to say. So then you can hear they can think, but also you're not giving them the answer. You just give them the answer. It's meaningless because they're not going to internalize the information. They're not going to start to think of these answers themselves. You walk through these problems with them and see if they're actually understanding it. Then you let a week pass. If still stuff is not happening, unfortunately, this is where the rubber starts to hit the road. This is where you probably have to go to your your HR business partner, and say, okay, I think I have an underperformer on my team. Let's say it's 2, 3 months in now. And so this is where you basically have to be very official. You have to start documenting everything. You have to start documenting both the responses they put in tickets that clients did not feel were helpful, all the times that you've helped them, all the times you've reached out to them, what are examples of good answers, what are examples of bad answers, how long are they taking to answer tickets. And the reason why you need to record all this information is that eventually, if you do need to set up a performance improvement plan or a PIP with this person, HR is going to want to know exactly what have you done up to this point. And then within the PIP, what you're probably going to have to do is structure it in a very simple but detailed way so that you can show them what success looks like, but you can also measure if they're hitting those milestones. This could be you are closing 20% more tickets than you did over the previous month. You are improving your CSAT score, you're improving your improvement score by X amount. So you're having all these tangible milestones. So these are good because this can help the person see if they're improving, but also this is also giving benchmarks to the leadership to see if they're actually hitting any of these milestones. And so, for everyone, we don't want people to fail or drop out of these PIPs, but sometimes this happens. If you say that this person needs to improve, let's say by week 8, and they are constantly not hitting these marks and they're not anywhere close to improving, then this is where you then go to HR and saying, hey, here's the PIP, here's where we saw where we want them to be, where they should be, and they're just not hitting up. And at this point, you may have to part ways with them. I mean, this is a part of the job that's not fun for everyone. I don't think it's fun for anyone, actually. But this happens. People can excel at interviews, they can crush presentations, but as we all know in the support world, the job is really where you are tested. And the job is really where you're going to have probably about 90% of your learning. So if you do encounter an underperformer, you just have to take it one step at a time. You have to try to both mentor them. You have to try to find different ways to motivate them, different ways to try to find their learning style. And if none of that works, like I said previously, you have to start setting these milestones. And they keep missing these milestones, then it might be time to say goodbye. So as you see, this is a little bit shorter than marginal support, but that's why I call it support minutes, because this is meant to be kind of short little tutorials or areas that I think people would like to know about. If you like this, if you have more questions, please add a comment. And until that, everyone remember, support is not just a job, it's a mindset. Talk to you all later. Bye.